Good now to you. We are pleased to be meeting with you in this fashion and are eager to discuss with you anything you so choose in order for you to know more of yourself. Hello.
Hello, Vagrein. Thank you for spending this time with me.
We thank you.
My first question is it correct to say that when I speak with you, I'm speaking to infinite intelligence?
Yes?
Excellent. My first question is about Kundalini awakening. I've read about it through my journey here on Earth, and it's been coming up more recently. I also had an injury, a kind of a comical injury, where I stupidly sat on my tailbone and really hurt it really hard. And I'm just curious, is there something in my body or what is the way in which I can awaken the Kundalini energy in my physical existence? And do I even need to think about this?
Well, you do not need to think about it. It can be one of the desires that you are holding within yourself. The curiosity does point to the fact that it is of interest to you, that it is a direction that is potentially holding some benefit for you. However, it is also possible that simply the query or the interest in it is what is holding the benefit, and that there is no specific benefit related to that experience or modality. There is nothing that you need for any purpose, but there is the availability of anything that you would choose for whatever it is you would decide the purpose of it is. Therefore, if this feels like something that is exciting for you, that is something that is pleasurable when you think of it occurring for you or with you, then there are many ways and directions that you can go through your research towards having that experience. As you said, you have read about it. There are beings that can aid you. There are practitioners that do have experience. There are modalities of movement that can aid in this. And we would say that the common factor between any of the routes towards having this experience are your intention to have it. So you can also relax in the knowing that if it is something that you have put into your field of desires, or the vortex as it is sometimes called, then it is arriving to you anyway and regardless. But please note that there is no difference between your experience in this now moment and your difference as it would be or is already in the post experiencing moment of this particular phenomena.
Did the recent injury have anything to do with this?
Anything to do with your desire or
Yes.
anything to do with what?
With the desire to awaken it, to awaken the Kundalini energy from I
It
guess,
is
the safe.
possible that in the injury, it did stimulate some of your own curiosity about this particular phenomenon. It did expand upon your desire that was already there, and the injury showed you that there is a desire to be more in your physical being and perhaps to be aware of the positioning and the movements that you are currently undertaking. You did say that it was an error, it was an accident that you did have this injury in the first place.
Yeah.
Therefore, the logic is if you are having accidents that are resulting in injury, this is also planned by your higher self to direct you in directions that would have you no longer make the choices or have the beliefs or have the circumstances in which you would otherwise come to an accident of such a nature.
Thank you. That makes sense. Are there core beliefs that you're aware of that are central to holding me back from my next expansion towards my path of desire?
This is not even possible in that, yes, any beliefs that you're holding that are no longer serving, perhaps in the letting go of them will facilitate and have you make movement towards your next, what you would consider expansion, but you are constantly in the state of expansion. And even when you are holding on to a belief that is no longer serving, that belief is in itself serving by creating situations and circumstances within your life that then reflect to you where it is you have some beliefs that you are ready to let go. Therefore, the expansion from the complete unaware state of using that belief for its prior service based to it no longer being in service to you is expansion in itself. In other words, it is not until a pencil has been sharpened down to its base that you realize that it no longer has the functionality of a pencil. Of course, many of you do
Mm.
not arrive at this because of the nature of the abundance of pencils in your experience. But if you were to have one pencil and you came to the end of this pencil and were no longer able to write with it, it will have served you up until it did not. And at what point that you see that it does not serve you, you can continue to hold on to this stub of graphite and continue to try to write with it for a very long period of time. But as a pencil is a tool to you, and you understand it is a tool, when you recognize that it is not serving, you simply let it go and adopt another pencil or create or procure another pencil for yourself. The problem with beliefs for you is that while they serve you for a period, when they come to the expiration of that service, you have, you, the collective, you, the species that you are, have decided that your beliefs are your identity. It is the equivalent of deciding that the pencil is your identity. And then when it no longer serves and cannot do its function any longer for you, you attempt to hold on to it. There are things, yes, in your field that you know in this now. You are already consciously aware of, are at the end of their writing days, so to speak. And some of these are intertangled with your identity of self. Therefore, you are having a bit of trouble letting go of these expired beliefs. But that too is okay, because in the not being able to let go of these expired beliefs, what you are learning and what you are coming to the end of is a grander belief that anything that you believe or think is your identity in the first place. So allow the process to be what it is. At some point, it will become very fluid. The pencil is finished, you throw it away. The pencil is finished, you throw it away. Right now, you are still in this space where some of these beliefs feel too close to home for you to let go of. But having patience with that and compassion for yourself and allowing yourself to see the disadvantages of continuing to believe that your identity is connected with the things that you have been in your past versions, then you will be able to let go of that grander and more substantial belief that any of this has anything to do with you as an individual at all, or as an individuation at all. Because you yourself as an individuation are beyond anything that you could be believing, anything that you could be thinking, anything even that you could be feeling. It is all tools for you. And as you let go of this one fundamental belief, that, for example, anything is fixed in stone or will remain with you for the entirety of your days, you will be able to very quickly allow anything else that does not serve to roll right off of you.
Excellent. So if beliefs are tools, can you or would you give me an example of how I would use a belief as a tool and let it go in my future self that is not attached and has understood that the beliefs are not my identity?
Yes, let us reflect one moment to find a good analogy.
Thank you.
Upon leaving university, you held a belief that it was imperative for you to get a job that was in line with the work that you had done. And this was a belief that serves. It was important for you to begin your career. It was important for you to strive in that direction, in that way. And it was something that did serve you at the time, you as whoever this analogy would be for. Later on, you decide that there are other things in life that are more priority to you, your family or other desires, other experiences. Perhaps you are an adventurer. Perhaps you are someone who would like to be in service to others. If you hold on to this belief that you must strive and you must earn and you must gain and you must be in a position of honoring the time you spent many years ago in university, then you are not able to step into the new roles of what is being asked for you in this now moment. You are not able to leave your job to go and have adventures. You are not able to become an entrepreneur that does something completely different with their wife. For example, opening a bakery. You do not have the ability to take on new beliefs. The belief that, for example, your degree is useless, or that you can do anything regardless of what you have studied, or that you can leave the corporate experience altogether. The belief that you must strive is what gave you success. It's what gave you the ability to find the job, to make the connections, to find the ability to stand up, work long hours, make the investments. But your needs have changed. Your desires have changed. And now that belief has become a restriction. Therefore, it has no service to you. That striving is no longer giving you what you want. What you actually want is the freedom, the new belief that says that it is safe to have this freedom is a far more serving belief to give you what you want than the I must not leave this job because of the investment I've made into it. Does this resonate for you?
That's perfect. It absolutely resonates and it's very useful, and I'll be able to use it as a template to think on afterwards as well and integrate. Thank you.
We thank you.
So, on that vein, and sort of a little tertiary, but maybe at the heart of this issue, the collective and individual belief not good enough, or I
Yes.
am not worthy. How did this originate, and how are we to pass that belief since it feels, as you say, so close to home?
It originated with violence and hierarchy. And the moment that you begin to kill each other, because to remain safe, one had to renounce their authority, renounce their sovereignty. So, in a community, for example, and this is one of your original Aranist beliefs, but it did serve. If you were to rise up against the king in a monarchy and say, but I am equal to you, then you would be beheaded. So, to preserve your ability to be and to exist, one had to see themselves as lower than the king and adopt that as their identity. Because if they were to allow themselves the truer belief that they are all equals, that we are all one, it was causing situations where survival was an issue. This does not occur only in a monarchy between two adults, it occurs in family units.
Yeah.
It occurs every time a child reaches adolescence and says to their, or forget adolescence, even the years of 2 years old, and says no for the first time to a parent figure. How much rage, even if it is subtly demonstrated in a gentle manner, arises in the parent when the child rebels. Much. Therefore, transmitted through that emotion and projected onto the child is, you do not know as much as me. I am the adult, you are the child, and you do not get to tell us what is right for you. You do not have the authority, you do not have the sovereignty to be worthy of your own life. We are in control, we are in charge. Do not rebel. And this is where many beings pick up this collective trauma of the unworthiness issue. I am smaller, therefore I am not good enough. I am the wrong gender, therefore I am not good enough. I am the wrong skin color, therefore I am not good enough. I am the wrong demographic location, therefore I'm not good enough. I am simply not doing things the way that the people in my classroom are doing. I am not good enough. And it is a pattern. Because if you were to all know that you are sovereign, that you are good enough, you would also have to look within yourselves and know that each of your other brothers and sisters are good enough. This competition, this manipulation, and this control that you hold over one another would end if you knew your worthiness. And in order for that to end, first, you also are required to process within each individual, within yourselves, the trauma Yes, and in this case, it is trauma of not having allowed yourself to feel how devastating it has been for you to have been in separation all of this time. You have a period of mourning that you will need to experience during your emancipation from separation. Because you will look back at the history of humanity and there will be this nostalgia and this longing for another version of the way things had gone. You will see the futility of all of the conflict that you have had, all of the sacrifice that each of you has had to undergo, all of the pain that you have had to experience by believing yourselves to be separate and alone, and all of the pain you have inflicted on each other, whether you are the most benevolent creature, human on the planet or not. You will have to look at the pain you have inflicted on others. This is not a threat. It is a compassionate statement saying that we know that this is what you are about to go through if you so choose, and we believe you to have the ability, the strength to go through it and choose to do it. But the first step is to understand that you have always been worthy, and this is what will bring up this pain.
Thank you. That's profound, and I feel that.
Well, thank
Um,
you.
Thank you. When it comes to, I'll ask you a similar question to the last one. Can you please help me slash others who might hear this see what a template could look like where we are not explicating this wound? So, for example, in whatever manner you see fit, what would the relationships look like? What would Israel and Palestine look like? What would a parent and child look like if we were not playing out that wound? What does that relationship play out as?
So, in this now moment, the trajectory that you have for humanity does have the period of the having to feel it all. You would no longer, beyond the feeling of it all and the circumstances that will occur through the feeling, and there is much left still on your separate level to feel, you would not have a situation where there is borders, where there is boundaries in the way that you are talking of, constructed, fear-based. And the shift in consciousness would make it that your beings who are currently in conflict would not even have the ability to perceive of the other as other. It is a shift in consciousness so grand that everyone will feel like your family, and family is the incorrect word here because you guys have this knack for hating your family the most.
Yeah.
So, beyond what your conception of the ideal family could be, you can look to your animal kingdom. You can look to passive social creatures that you have seen collaborating in experiencing with. There is no incongruency between community or community and individuation. Because, as for example, each bee in the hive has its role, and there's not the ego telling each bee who they should be or someone at the top managing these roles and giving out certificates and telling, well, you are good at this, therefore you must be the worker bee, and you are good at this, therefore you must tend to the queen. Even the queen is simply born to be into that role. Your humanity will rearrange itself so that the individuations, and yes, the individualism is part of what makes it work. In the same way, the cells in your body do not fight over who gets to be a fingernail. Your fingernails delight in the fact that they are fingernails. In the same way, the marrow in your bones delights in the fact that it is the marrow in your bones. There is no question for these cells as to, from the moment they were created, what they were going to do and what they were going to be. They did not have an identity crisis, the same way that you humans choose to create identity crisis. You take your musicians and you tell them that they cannot earn money by playing an instrument. You take your artists and you tell them that they will never be able to feed their families. You take people who are fascinated by mathematics and you say, well, that is great, but what a boring job that would be. And you convince them that they should be someone else. Or
Mm.
worse, you homogenize everyone so that it feels like there is a commonality, but it is the equivalent of telling every single cell in your body it must be bone marrow. Humanity will arrange itself into the natural order that it is meant to, or not meant to, because you are choosing, of course, this chaos, but that you are desiring for it to have. And it will look so different that there will be no difference between Palestinians and Israelis or whatever other illusory group components that you have created for yourself inutily without any need to do so. You will not have these groups. You will have each being as much itself as it possibly can be. And in that, it will naturally lean towards beauty. It will naturally lean towards love. It will naturally lean towards compassion, because when you are not denying your true nature, you each have that spark of godliness. And God has created each and every one of you. If you want to use this word, you can use all that is. You can use source. You can use the universe. He's created each and every one of you out of love. So this is an example, or this is what it would look like, but it is still a work in progress. Because to arrive at that knowing within yourselves, you do have to allow yourselves to feel that everything that you have done up until now has not been exactly what has delighted you the most.
Thank you.
We thank
So
you.
it delighted you the most, our guidepost?
Yes.
Okay. How does that play out in a parent-child situation? Will children need what we call discipline, boundaries?
Well, that relationship will change fundamentally as well, because the detachment that you create with the what you are calling parent-child relationship from other beings in the common unity does force certain situations that are not entirely in the best interest of that child. You had it a little bit more correct, perhaps, in other periods of your history where a being arrived at the ages of 8 or 10 and was already confident in the exploration of the world, because everyone in that world considered them to be a member of society already. So the age is a factor. And
Yeah.
everyone in that world considered them to be someone that they were a custodian over. You had apprenticeships, you had villages that would raise a child, you had situations where the child had more access to more parents, to more interests, to more decisions that they could make autonomously. And in this autonomous decision making, their sense of sovereignty and the sense of self sufficiency was arrived at far earlier than it is in your current society. And in this arrival at self sufficiency and self autonomy and sovereignty, there was the ability to be more of oneself. Of course, there were restrictions in other forms of the collective and other parts of the aspects of the collective, in that perhaps if you were an artisan, you did not have the means to become an apprentice, or there were many other things that you did not have access to. The thing is the world in this now moment, at least in most parts or some parts of it, does have the affluence or the abundance to allow everyone to be what they would like to be. However, the restrictions have been changed, and this idea of a family unit that is comprised of a two-parent model with one or more children and an ownership element is not what you will see in this eventual situation. Therefore, the discipline will not need to exist because in this being making its own choices, they will have the consequences of those choices presented to them in real life. Therefore, it does not take very long before they understand it is not the best idea to jump off the bridge, or it is not the best idea to harm another being, because they will have their inner being guiding them, showing them the consequences of the choices that they're making that are not in alignment with who they truly are as well. So, no, we would say discipline is not necessary. And parenting itself would change significantly because it would no longer be on the parents to micromanage the expansion of the younger beings.
Mhm. I understand that a little bit from how I grew up on the kibbutz, which was a cooperative society. But
Yes,
yes, it had its upsides and its downsides, its light sides and its dark sides.
yes,
Okay, thank you.
we thank you.
I'm going to turn a little personal
Yes,
for this part of their session. I'm I'm in a place where I'm actually finding some calm and salve in allowing myself to be where I am. I have two lines of question. One is relating to inflammation in the body. I spoke with Jesse about this, and we talked about some dietary changes that I would make, and I've been making them for the most part. And then there's another question which has to do with how much of the pain and inflammation in my body, if you can tell me, is coming from diet, nutrition, movement versus thought patterns.
so the changes that you have made will improve the situation and lead you to the moments in which you are prepared to or ready to look more deeply at the cause of the inflammation in the first place. The cause of inflammation is not ever diet. You know this because there are beings on a planet that can eat whatever they like and do not have inflammation, and then there are others who do have it. So it is very much related to your thought patterns because your body doesn't have, aside from being your transportation for you to be able to experience the things that you want to during this incarnation, it does not have much of a role aside from giving you information on where it is you would like to expand further. And it does often do this in the form of pain because pain does get your attention. As you work into your modalities of finding solutions and feeling slightly better, you can then investigate and move into the causes beneath and below what originally asked your body, requested for your body to get your attention in the first place. Do you have a suspicion of what that might be?
I have a thought that the conversation we had earlier and my expression of not worthy and wanting to feel safe that really resonated with me. I think my personal drive has been wanting to feel safe and wanting to find my sovereignty, which was very clear to me that it was a mistake, that there was an imbalance somewhere deep inside, well, even from a very young age. And my connection to source from a very young age, and the disconnection that I felt early in life from the impositions upon my belief systems that I took on. So I think my suspicion is that the way in which I'm driving myself, and therefore I have a strong bias towards leaving my job because it's kind of like the expression of this long-term pressuring of myself into a direction without listening. And so I think that the inflammation is almost like I can sense an internal body revolt from this pressurizing and directioning, and that if I stop this pressurizing and directioning, the inflammation will subside and the body will allow me to be a receiving and listening device. versus the pressurizing and pushing element.
This is correct. However, watch your languaging, because in your solution, your brain has come up with a solution that if I leave my job, I can control my body. And
Mm.
that is actually not what is being asked of you. It is not being asked of you. You never are being directed to specific action by your body, but by specific expansion. The expansion you are being asked of, and you have described it to us, but we are saying, please be aware of the energy that you are holding with that, because the thing that you are being asked to do is to allow yourself to be yourself, not force yourself to be yourself. So, leaving the job, if it is for a purpose of calming this inflammation and getting on with the rest of it, is still the same energy that would be manifest in the remaining in the job. But if you can get that switch in your understanding and framing to flip, that the benefit of the leaving the job, for example, if that is the action you ultimately take, is not the inflammation leaving, but the you relaxing into who you truly are, then
Mm.
you will have far more, perhaps, success, if we were to use that word, with the subsiding of the symptoms. But it is also possible that you simply will not notice them as much, or they will not be relevant to you any further because of the calm that you did also mention you are stepping into, that you are feeling as this occurs. It does also not mean you must leave your job, because
Mhm.
you can achieve any state of being you choose under any circumstance. So if that letting go and relaxing and flow state is what you are being aligned for and aligned to, you can have that in your job as well. So do not think that you need to compromise anything that you desire. If your job does bring you pleasure in many ways, and this is the thing that you think is causing the problem, then it does not mean that you need to leave that. It means that you need to evolve within it and modify yourself within it and experiment with where you have fear about that within it
Mm.
before you actually have the expansion that your body is asking you to. So there is no leave the job, don't leave the job as to what is going to solve the problem. It is become the version of you that you are asking yourself to become, in or out of the job, in or out of any future job. That is really the question. Will you do that? Or will you continue to ask yourself to do that? Because those are really the only options. We have time for the one more question.
Thank you. I understand that. My last question is about channeling. So I understand that we, in some sense, are channeling all the time, but I'm curious if there is in my capability set and or my desire set an ability to do work similar to how Jesse does, maybe in a different fashion. And specifically, I've had a desire for a long time to, feels like almost download children's books. So I'm just curious if you can see or if you can guide me on how to even approach this question. Because when it comes up, I say to myself, similar to what you just explicated to me, you are trying to look at a template and make yourself that template. And I don't want to do that, but I do want to lean back into the relaxed questioning, and I would even say the pleasure of meeting myself in this instances. And I'm struggling a bit with how to relax that notion and really just receive it and understand when I'm receiving it.
Yes, well, when you listen back to this, you will see that all of the complication in this question you have added yourself as salt and pepper on top of what did not need it in the first place. In other words, you said very clearly to us that you have a desire to download children's books. Then you added a whole bunch of other things that were based upon your fear, that were based upon you having that unworthiness question, based upon you having that I would need to control the circumstances question. And what we would say to the direct question that we were asked, and that was, do I have ability? Do I have the capability? Can I do this? Is there something that we can see in your field that is related to this? And we will say, yes, there is. And simply do it. Now, it is not the answer you wanted to hear from us today, because it is the answer that brings up the most fear. We are saying, yes, you absolutely can and will, if you choose, do that thing that you desire to do. Like, and in the same way that everyone can and will, if they choose, do the desire that they would like. You truly are completely sovereign beings in control of your own experience. If your desire is to write or to download and transmit these books because you believe they will be of benefit, but even if you did not believe they would be of benefit, even if it was simply because it is a joyful idea for you to do so, yes, with the fear, yes, with the trepidation, yes, with the doubt in this now moment, but something beyond that has a desire. Something beyond that is calling to you. It is not a template. If it were, everyone would be doing it. Something about you is connected with that desire. Now, you did not wake up the first day of your life and say, now I will pick and choose all my desires for the rest of my experience. I will desire to have pistachio flavored ice cream and I will desire to have this type of movie. No, we do not know why beings choose the desires that do other than they are divine. What makes you you is also what makes your desires the desires that you're holding. Therefore, utmost respect for your desires is required to understand who you truly are. So the answer is yes. If you choose, you can go ahead. You have the universe's permission, but you already had the universe's permission in the form of your desire. And if that is the message we can leave with you and we can leave with anyone else who would be hearing this, it would be you have permission to be who you are. And more so, you have the responsibility to be who you are. And with that, we leave you with the light and the love of 1,000 suns. Anainai.
Hey guys, thank you for watching all the way to the end of this video. I really appreciate your attention, your focus, and your time. Please remember that if you did enjoy this, you can always like and subscribe and hit the bell icon. It really helps the channel reach other people just like you who resonate with this material. It really helps me to continue to create videos for you, and it really helps all of the collective to raise our vibrations. So do go ahead and do that right now, and I'm hoping to see you again here soon. Much love. Bye-bye.